So I had to do it at the very end.
That's a lot of work, though. Yeah.
It's Monday, March 18th, 9:59 a.m. We're at the Montgomery County Board of Elections for my protest hearing. I've turned in 563 signatures on 29 petitions. They've ruled that I was 11 signatures short. They said that 28 were not genuine, insinuating that voters had somehow committed fraud, or my petition circulator had. And I have signed affidavits to present to the Board of Elections that say 16 of the voters said, no, that was what I meant to do, and how dare you. So we'll see how the board reacts to this morning, and if it places me on the ballot, which would mean there would be a primary for the Dayton City Commission election in March to select the top 4 or 5 candidates to move on to the November ballot. This whole thing is absolutely insane because there is no reason to have a primary. Voters are smart enough to decide the top 2 candidates, pick their candidates at one time, or we could have ranked order voting, any of the above. But no, they choose to have this silly primary process that costs the taxpayers money and causes people to have to go out and get petitions signed in frigid temperatures in February to get things turned in. So Kurt Hatcher is showing up. That'll put 3 board members here, and we should be able to get started.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's impressive.
Way to go out. Oh, isn't it?
That's where you guys use relationship.
Things like being apart.
That's awesome. No way. More to where? No way. That's awesome.
Good morning. Good morning. This is a special Board of Elections meeting of March the
18th.
18th at 10:02. This is a protest hearing requested by David Esrati for the purposes of the board had invalidated his petition for lack of valid signatures.
Madam Chairwoman, could I make a motion that we excuse Member Wick from this meeting?
I'll second
It's been properly moved and second to excuse Member Kay Wick. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the motion carries. At this time, we will allow Mr. Esrati to present his case.
Thank you. Chairperson, good morning, Board of Elections.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So,
Excuse me, Mr. Esrati, if you could leave that button on, I think it's
I'm
up.
sorry. Oh, it is on. Okay. So this is the protest hearing that was requested last Tuesday about the petitions I submitted on the deadline May 8th, 4 p.m. I turned in 563 signatures. The Board of Elections had gone through those and made marks upon the petitions which I requested, and I went through and made a database of all the ones that they had disqualified. I had identified 28 as they had by their marks. Now the marks here were supposed to be NG, according to the Secretary of State, for not genuine. Those are the regular ones prescribed by the Secretary of State. Some of these petitions had NG, some had the 3 letters SIG, S-I-G, which is not on the affirmed marks. Some also, 2 petitions have X's instead of check marks, as if the entire petition is wrong. And for the Board of Elections, which is a stickler for details and has highly, highly paid directors, never mind a large staff to conduct just a couple elections a year and do these things, I would expect that their attention to detail on my signatures would match their attention to detail in marking these petitions. That being the case, I've generated affidavits for the 28 plus a few that I tried that were where the address wasn't there because they had written their name and printed their name as instructed but didn't have room to then put an address. And I went out yesterday and tried to get as many of them as I could to sign this affidavit. Reason being, yesterday was because I was out of town for several days on business. Most of the people who I went to tell this story to and to knock on their door and ask them to, again, were offended that their signatures weren't counted. They took great affront to the fact that this Board of Elections thought that they were somehow committing fraud or that they had marked this not knowing what they were doing. I want that to sink into the Board of Elections because you are a Board of Elections, not a Board of Selections. Luckily, the Supreme Court has ruled on this, and the state, XRL, Crowell versus Delaware County Board of Elections, where they make it very clear. The court held that signatures that deemed not genuine shall become genuine upon proof the signature was actually made by the signer. Each signer herein, through their express testimony and their sworn statement, attests and affirms their signature is genuine and authentic. So there is precedent that for doing this. So that said, they signed an affidavit saying that they understood that it was to place me on the ballot so they could have a choice for city commission. They knew that by signing this petition, it did not commit them to vote for me. It meant that they had a choice. I followed the format that was requested on the petition, which says name. It does not say signature. I went to extra steps to ask most people to print their name and sign their name. So there could be no confusion, even though there's not specifically space on this petition for it. I've talked to this Board of Elections in the past. I've talked to the City Commission in the past. They refused to revise this form. In fact, the form still says Dayton Legal Blank, and Dayton Legal Blank's been out of business for a good dozen years or so. This petition still holds space on it that could be used for printing and signature with ward and precinct, which aren't required. Yet the circulator and the people who are signing have no reason to understand why they can ignore something that has to be there, yet have to add things that aren't there. So, they've reviewed their signature on the petition, hereby attest and affirm it's genuine and authentic, and it was their intention to place me on the ballot. And I did this in front of a notary, and I did it 16 times. I was short 11 signatures. So once I present these 11, which have the form with a scan of what the form said at the top, it has a scan of what they signed, has their signature, has a notary. When I present these to you, that should say that I have met and exceeded the threshold of 500 required, which is, again, I know is 10 times what it takes to run for Congress in this district. So, again, the petition is deficient. It is not available online in an ADA compliant format. It does not match any petition used for any other elected office in the state of Ohio. The website for the Board of Elections has another deficiency because I'm used to this. I actually download a list of registered voters before I go and circulate my petitions and go door to door asking for that specific person. And part of the problem is sometimes I offend people when I ask for Tom Young, who voted in the last gubernatorial, and his wife is standing there at the door. What about me? I'm a registered voter. Well, you didn't have to vote in the last gubernatorial election, which is the only list I could pull, even though I can specify on the Board of Elections site that I want Democrats, Libertarians, Green Party, Republicans only, and I can break the walk list down by party. I cannot multiple select campaigns, election cycles. And I can't also check a box for new voters. I should be able to select multiple choices of, obviously, the last gubernatorial, which was the last large turnout, which is the one I used. I should be able to pick any primary voters, because those are the people who usually vote in every election. And I should be able to pick all new registers, people who haven't voted yet. But I cannot. So my walk list, sometimes I would get somebody that signs and somebody else in the household says, I'm a registered voter. And I'm not going to turn them down because they're not on my list. But when we get down to it, I'm very careful about this, and I take it very seriously. And I had 3 petition circulators who, they were new at this, and they didn't read the instructions I provided, and so they made accidents. Most of them were on 3 petitions. All that being said, after I left this meeting last time, a young member who works for the Board of Elections decided to come and tell me that I screwed up and I made mistakes, and it was up to me, and I was, somehow deficient in doing this. And he checked the petitions himself. I don't need to be goaded by employees of the Board of Elections. It's bad enough that these people are all picked by the political parties, the 2 major political parties and no others. It's bad enough that you ignore the will of the voters and try to throw me off the ballot, but to have somebody, and it's on video, have somebody say something like that to me after getting denied a chance to be on the ballot for the umpteenth time because I didn't know the rules, and because this board has never really provided ways to fix this. And they have known that the Dayton City Commission petition has all kinds of deficiencies and has been challenged in court many times. I find that despicable. I don't think any employee, public employee, should ever rub salt in the wounds of anybody who tries to run for office. And I would hope that that person gets a lesson in civics, if not in manners. So with that, I have a letter to the board for the protest hearing. I have a copy for each of you. I have, even though it says I had 15, I had to write in 1 extra because I got 1 more on the way in here. So I have 16 affidavits to give to you, all here. I have copies of the Supreme Court case, and I have the copies that I was provided by Kathy Merkel of these petitions, including the 2 petitions which were, I believe it was petitions 17 and 18 with the X's. And then also you can go through and you can find which ones were marked with things like SIG or JUR, which are not codes approved by the Secretary of State, but you can do that investigation on your own. Who do I hand these to?
Chair of the board would be
Okay.
appropriate.
So here is the protest hearing letter. This is the Supreme Court, and here are the affidavits signed, notarized, of 16 voters, which puts me well over the 11 I was short. And as you see, there is a scan of the original line, and it matches the petitions. You can go there in order by petition number and line number, and you can line them all up right here and now, and you should be able to see that by the fact that they're notarized, that was their intent, was to put me on the ballot. It really shouldn't be down to the handwriting analysis, because as the Supreme Court says, that's not legit.
Thank you, Mr. Esrati. Attorney Montgomery.
Yes.
I have a question to ask. Are notary seals are they to be raised?
Typically, there's a crimper.
There-
like to request that we verify the signatures on the affidavit with those on the signature cards. If we could do that, please. Not to belabor this, but if we're going to go through and look, we might as well have it checked.
I want to review the Supreme Court's decision.
But Mr. Esrati, please.
I'm just trying to make this a little, procedurally, so that everybody's on the same page with this. That's all.
Member Young, we will take the affidavit and have them be compared to what we have on the petitions. In the meantime, yes.
I think the notary verifies that it is the authentic signature of that person.
Mr. Esrati. Mr.
And you already
Mr. Esrati.
Excuse me, you
No,
already
no,
said that
Mr. Esrati.
it says Roddy.
What?
Or should I call you Mackie Lynn? Get my name right.
Okay, one second. Here, in all due respect, all I'm asking for is just verification. And I understand what the Supreme Court ruling was, okay? I do. I've already had that discussion. The point is, we're just trying to make sure that everything's clean and straightforward. So what I don't want to occur in these types of hearings is we need to have some measure of respect everywhere.
I've been disrespected by this board for 25 years, Mr. Young.
Okay, you may have. I wasn't here, but all I'm asking
I
you to
understand.
do is respect this board, because our intent, as I said in the previous meeting, is to make sure that the voters, right, have the right, and the candidates have the right. I don't believe we have any jurisdiction over petitions, although your petition should be submitted again to the city of Dayton. But please, let us do our job if we can, please, if you would allow that.
We have a duty to check this signature.
It's amazing, though,
And
that when you
is
have
what
somebody
we're going to
fraudulent
do.
forging your
At this
signature, the
time-
prosecutor in this county won't prosecute somebody for fraud.
That has nothing to do with this hearing, okay? I understand your frustration, okay? But it has nothing to do with this hearing.
It actually
In all
does.
due respect. Not at this time,
Okay.
okay?
At this time, for clarification, I'm going to ask Deputy Director Harshan to explain what the acronyms are next to signatures. The first one is NRA,
It's not registered at the address that's on file with the Board of Elections.
JUR,
Is jurisdiction, this is a City of Dayton Charter, Home Rule Authority situation, and they must live in the City of Dayton. So if they're outside of the City of Dayton, they're marked jurisdiction because they're not within the City of Dayton boundaries.
NR,
Not registered, they're not a registered voter in Montgomery County.
SIG,
Signature, if the signature does not match, that is used. I will make a reference to Mr. Esrati's comment about the state petition codes. The list that he's referencing is for state petitions only, not local petitions specifically.
NG,
NG is not genuine.
and DUP.
It's a duplicate. If they signed another set of petitions under the City of Dayton Charter, you're only allowed to sign the amount of petitions that's elected. And if you sign a third set of petitions, it's considered a duplicate and is not valid. If you sign the same set of petitions, it's considered duplicate and not a valid signature.
Thank you. Board members, while we are waiting, do you have any questions that you would like to ask?
I don't have any. I'll wait for the response from the affidavit.
I had one question for Attorney Montgomery. I think I know the answer, but does it matter the jurisdiction of the notary? One of the notaries was
As long as it's a
Miami.
notary. I don't have a firm answer to that, but common sense would say that if they're a notary here in the state of Ohio, then that's.
It's a statewide
Correct.
situation, sure.
I do want to make one comment that that the protester is stating that about the petitions. And the petitions are specific to the city of Dayton and its own. And if you wanted those changed, they have to be changed by them, by the city commission.
Or by petition, by the same faulty petition that is used here, and it doesn't work. It generates way too many errors because it is a faulty petition, and that's the problem. The threshold for number of signatures to get a charter amendment is way higher.
Can I ask a question of the protester?
Yes.
Mr. Esrati, how many other people got their petitions validated for this election for this seat? 4. Thank you.
their genuine signature.
And we have 15 ballots. The one that's in dispute was just the initials.
And you as the board have the prerogative to decide what you want to do with that one.
So we have 15 that are accepted.
If the board so chooses to do so, you can.
Verify the number just for the record.
Just, okay, for the record. And then there's one that we would have to act on separately because it was initial.
Yeah, you would have to act on all 16 of them, but you can act on the 15 as a group, which you verify the signature with what's on file, and then separately on the ones where it's initials.
Is that acceptable to the board members to do it in that manner?
That's fine.
Madam Chair, I've verified that there's 15 affidavits that correspond to printed signatures, and then one that we cannot verify.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Are there any other comments from our attorney?
What was that?
Are there any other comments from our attorney? At this time, we should make as a board to accept or reject the affidavits presented by the protester.
Before we do that, I'd like to address Mr. Esrati again and say that this board, this body, goes over and above the call of duty to make it right for not only the voter first, but also candidates. But we caution candidates all the time to make sure that they check and verify, right? So in the future, hopefully you'll have enough time to get this done. life events make those changes, obviously, affect you. But please, in the future, address this board with respect, as we will address you with respect. I make a motion, Madam Chairwoman, that we accept 15 of the affidavits in regards to the petition signed, sent by and presented by Mr. Esrati.
I'll second.
Been properly moved and second to accept 15 affidavits that have been checked and verified as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion carries.
Madam Chairwoman, I would like to address the affidavit that was initialed, that was not accepted. My comment would be that in light of the fact that on the voter affidavit, even though presented by a notary, it says signed a petition, if we take the procedures right, and underneath it says signed. So I move that we do not accept this petition.
I second that.
It's been properly moved and second not to accept this affidavit due to the basis that it was not a signature provided. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed,
And Madam Chairwoman,
the motion carries.
Sorry.
Yes.
I submit a motion to approve the petitions for Mr. Esrati as submitted along with his affidavit as a part of this protest hearing and following the procedures.
And for purposes of the board, Steve, he had how many that were valid the first time?
489.
Okay. And the board has now approved 15 additional signatures for a total of how many?
504 valid signatures.
Thank you.
And I'll second Tom's motion.
It's been properly moved and second to accept the presented affidavits in addition to the already submitted petitions of David Esrati, and that he would be certified to be on the May primary ballot for the city of Dayton in the Slidell City Commission. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, the motion carries.
Thank you.
Is there any other further business to come before the Board of Elections?
I have none.
May I have a motion to close this hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and second to close this protest hearing. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion is carried. Thank you.
Mr. Young, when you have somebody come to you and goad you afterward, that's not respect. And I hope that gets done. It's on video. I started the camera a little after it's already been done, but it can take it on.
Mr. Esrati, if I can address that real quick. We did see your video. We addressed it. I want to apologize on behalf of the board and personally. That is not the standard that we set for our staff. It has been addressed. They've been verbally reprimanded, and it will not happen again.
Thank you. Appreciate that.